evening, and welcome to Information Please, your Peoria Public Library on the air, bringing you information about your library and your community. And tonight my guest is Katie Baumel, who's from Lakeview Branch, and she's going to tell us about some major events that are going on this month and some great events going on at Lakeview. Hi. Well, you've kind of grabbed onto there's a lot of national events out there that Peoria Public Library likes to celebrate, and kind of summarize that. We've got Children's Book Week, we have National Poetry Month, and we have National Library Week. I don't know why they all happen in April, but but that's what's going on, and you guys have planned a lot of fun. So I just thought maybe we could chat about what these different things mean and to people who like books and like learning, and then maybe we can tell everybody what we got going on.
Sure.
Okay. Well, let's start with Children's Book Week, which is, I think, very interesting. Do you know even how long that's been going on? It's fairly old.
The first time I actually noticed it was about 4 or 5 years ago, probably, but I'm not sure.
Is this the one that used to be in November?
It may be.
Because I think the Children's Book Week started like around 1900, and I think it originally was the movement to draw attention to the fact that children needed literature of their own, because at that time, books weren't really written for children.
Right.
But I think what happened was, I think they moved it from Thanksgiving week, when it used to be, to the spring 4 or 5 years ago. And it's changed a lot since then, except
seems like it's more recognized now.
Yeah, well, they do more of the digital stuff, like they sent us all a signature we can put on our email, and which anybody can. You just go search for Children's Book Week on the internet and you can find all kinds of cool stuff. But they have things like the Children's Book Week champion, and the idea of I read everything. And what do you think about promoting kids I read everything?
I think that's kind of neat. So it's like just anything, not just one specific genre or just what I read at school, just kind of everything, no matter what it is, or whether someone else, mom or dad or teacher, says it's not good literature, it's okay to read everything.
Yeah, I think, true, that's what we try to do in summer reading every year too.
Right.
Is say, this is the one chance when kids have a chance to explore and pick out whatever they want. And I think so much of our school system, they have goals they need to meet, and so much assigned reading, and by the time they get done with all that, kids a lot of times aren't getting to read the things that really
Absolutely.
Light up their imagination. So it's a good thing. It's a good thing. But what's the event you're having where kids get to vote?
If you stop by any of our branches at Peoria Public Library anytime now through May 13th, you can vote for your favorite book, author, and illustrator. And so there's different categories. There's kindergarten through 2nd grade for your favorite book, 3rd to 4th grade, 5th to 6th, and then 7th through 12th. So they pick titles that each age group likes, and then everyone can vote for author of the year and illustrator of the year. And there's a lot of real big favorites that seem like they're on there every year, like Mo Willems and Jeff Kinney.
Okay, cool. Well, so is this, are they picking from a list, like here's your list of favorite books and pick one of these?
There's 5.
So it's not a free-for-all that any book you've ever read?
Well, in the beginning it was. You could actually nominate, I think it started in January, maybe December. You could go online and you could write in your favorites, and then they kept narrowing it down from all the write-ins, and so now it's the final 5 in every category.
Oh, okay.
So it is completely all your favorites.
Okay. But if they just stop in, they can vote, and then they get an I voted sticker, right?
Yes, just like in the presidential election.
Yeah, they get the little I voted sticker that shows that they voted for their favorite book. Well, and there's children's choice, and then there's teen choice, right?
Mm-hmm.
So definitely different categories, and
Right.
they can vote for their appropriate age group at that point. Yeah.
And then when it's over on the 13th, then they'll announce the winners during actual Children's Book Week, which is the week of the 13th through 18th in May. And so then if you go online, you can see all the winners for that year.
And who they got. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Well, and so that's our big thing, is we're promoting the voting, which is one of the main
Right.
things of Children's Book Week. And of course, you guys always have plenty of story times and things too,
Yes.
celebrating books. And
In the week of Children's Book Week, we're having at Lakeview a Make Your Own Book workshop too. So if you stop in for that, you'll get your chance to be an author yourself and make your own little book.
Is that one of your crafts you have that's all the time, or is it a specific time?
It's at a specific time.
Okay, well, we can look on the web calendar. It's easier than writing it down right now, is to go to www.peoriapubliclibrary.org and look under the events, and you'll find the calendar and you can see it. And it'll be in kid events and in passages, our newsletters. So plenty of ways to find out when that is exactly. Okay, and then April is also National Poetry Month, which of course a few years ago the Illinois Poet Laureate was at Bradley University. I was actually an instructor there. And that was fun for us because we got first dibs on having him come and do programs and things. But this year there's a lovely poster, and there's Poem in Your Pocket Day, which I think is a lot of fun. But maybe we can talk a little bit about National Poetry Month. Can you tell me what National Poetry Month actually is?
It's kind of been taken from the success of Black History Month, Women's History Month, and started then I think it originally started some other time, but moved to April, so that's when most schools, libraries, teachers, everyone can celebrate it with the most success with involvement.
Who started it? There's always somebody behind these things.
The Academy of American Poets.
Ah, all right, cool. Well, I didn't know there was one, but that makes sense that, poets would want to join together and have an organization to support each other. So they have, I don't think this initiative's been around all that long. I mean, what I'm seeing here is 1996, so that's not even that old, but it's caught on, and it's kind of a big deal. I think that it has a lot of goals too. Do you know what some of those goals are?
To highlight the extraordinary legacy and ongoing achievement of American poets, to introduce more people to enjoyment of poetry and probably different poets, and to bring poets and poetry to the public in immediate and innovative ways, and increase the attention to poetry by national and local media.
That's great. I know that we have had a lot of live poetry readings and open mic nights and that kind of thing at different branches over the years. But this year you're going to have a poetry contest, right?
Yes, and it's open for all ages, so whether you're a kid, a teen, an adult, all of your poems get to be recognized, and you can submit them to any location or through email. And at the end of the month, so in May, some staff at Peoria Public Library and all of our locations will go through and pick their favorite, and there will be prizes for the first and second.
That'll be great. Yeah, and that'll be easy to find too, because you just go to our website.
Yes.
And try looking under the blog, and then look at the calendar under events, and you'll be able to find, the rules, and then the librarians can always give you an entry form if you can't find that. So that's easy to find. I always wonder how many people come in and check out poetry books, but this is a perfect reason. Just put it on your list and say, it's like a to-do thing, just like we do Peoria Reads. Okay, I'm going to read this book, and April, it's National Poetry Month. Just make it a personal goal to read some poetry. Expand your mind a little. And you may have forgotten, since high school or college when somebody forced you in literature class to read poetry. But when we all listen to music, I always go back to that. We listen to so many song lyrics that are essentially poetry. And I think people will enjoy that if they take a little bit of time to do it. Let's see, what are we, sorry here. We can use the logo too. Anybody can celebrate this, like on your personal blog, or your club or your school group or whatever. Anybody can use that logo and say, oh, we're celebrating National Poetry Month. And then one of my favorite parts, and one of the things I like to promote about National Poetry Month, is Poem in Your Pocket Day, which I think is April 19th. And that is a fun, fun day. And there's a little logo that looks like your jeans pocket that goes for that one. But what do we encourage people to do on that day?
Carry around a poem in your very own pocket, and then it can be your original poem again, or your favorite poem from anywhere, and then carry it in your pocket, and then you can share them with other people throughout the day who have a poem in their pocket as well.
That's fun. We did this last year. A lot of the library staff kind of got into a competition about, making sure they had a poem in their pocket, and it was fun. And I'm not sure the public realized they could ask the librarian to see the poem that was in their pocket. But that's a lot of fun too, to see people who are surrounded by books all day, every day, what poem is your favorite. And so I always go back to some of the older poetry, but there's a lot of new poetry out there that's really great too. And we have it all at Peoria Public Library. So
Yes.
yeah. And do you think if people come to the desk and ask for help finding poetry, can our librarians do that?
Oh yes. Don't even have to look the number up.
What is the number?
811.
Okay. You probably learned that in library school. Do you get a lot of requests for poetry books?
Off and on. Some months it'll be not really any requests, and then other times you'll get hit up a lot. So it must have to do with probably Poetry Month and school projects.
Not Valentine's Day.
Actually, you know what? I don't remember February being
High on that list of things. Oh. Okay, and then the last big event that's going on in April is National Library Week. And National Library Week isn't just about Peoria Public Library or
Right.
public libraries. It's about school libraries, college libraries, the specialized libraries like law libraries, any library. And so everybody that kind of joins together to say some of those self-promoting things, but it's important because if we don't remind people sometimes of the value of libraries and librarians and library workers, we can just quietly go about our jobs and nobody remembers how important our library is to our community. And so one of the big things is that we're a lot more than a repository for books. What would you describe a library today as a library's part in our community to someone?
It's so different now, and I think so many different things to everyone. Since I love books, my mind still goes to the book resource, but for so many people it's where they go to look for jobs, a resource for employment, or a resource for finding their ancestors with all of our databases. And it seems like everyone kind of has their own unique, what they look at it for, especially with now all the technology advances that we have.
Yeah, and when you say look for jobs, it's not they're applying for a job at the library. It's
Right.
you can't even apply for a job anywhere without a computer.
Right.
And for a little while, some of the places would have a computer where you could apply for a job, but most of them now say if you don't have a computer at home, go to the public library. And I know the staff helps people every day with whether they're applying for, an advanced job at Caterpillar or somewhere, or they're applying for a job at McDonald's, or it's a kid applying for their first job. They can use our resources to do that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And we also have Job Now.
Yes.
And can you tell us a little bit about Job Now?
It's another one of our free databases, and it'll help you type in and look for all the different little resources you need. And I think, does it still offer some resume assistance too?
Yeah,
I
you can
thought
have
so.
one, almost a tutor help you one-on-one
Which
with
is
your resume.
great.
Yeah,
Because I
send
think
in your
that
resume.
changes from time to time, so it's great to have that extra help at what people are currently looking for on
Yeah.
a resume.
Yeah, resumes do change, the formatting, what people expect to see. And I know one of the issues now there are places that people don't look at your resume, but they run them through a computer scanning program, and literally the computer accepts or rejects whether your resume goes to the next level by words and things that are contained in it. And so if you don't know how to do that, you don't have a chance of ever getting off of that slush pile, which is kind of frightening, but especially with, younger people your age being underemployed, because us old people aren't moving out of the way and the economy is not good. So it's a great resource. Even if you just were in college and you just had all that stuff at school about resumes, it's a lot better to get, fresh pair of eyes and somebody who really knows how to do this. Yeah, and we have a lot of practice tests too. Have you, at Lakeview Branch, do you have people coming in to take the practice tests? Like,
We don't get a whole lot of that at Lakeview, but we've had some people who've accessed the database to use it. But
yeah, we have things like the test for the firemen and police and the GED and
that's a
law
popular
school.
one.
Is it GED? Yeah, and I know we have stuff like law school and some of the other very specialized tests that, you practice and you practice over and over and over so you can do well when you actually go to the employer and take them. And that's, as you said, one of our free things we have. So, but the other thing about libraries is they're a community center, aren't they?
Yes.
And I think you see that with your meeting room at Lakeview, as we do at the main library and North Branch, and our meeting rooms are wonderful, of course. Lakeview only has one now because we have a cool new Storytime room that's going to have some exciting things going on in there pretty soon as far as the decor. I think it's still a secret, so we won't tell people, but we can tell them that the Lakeview Branch Children's Room is going to have an amazing facelift.
I think they'll like it.
I don't know if it's a facelift or a finish, because it never quite got finished, because we had to wait and see how much money there was left over. Yeah, but what I see at the library is that sense of community, because people are talking about issues important to them. What are some of the groups you can think of that meet at Lakeview Branch?
All kinds. We have a robotics group that meets there once a month. We have a lot of tutors too, and so our new study rooms that we didn't have before get a lot of use from tutors. And lately we've had an increase of students in high school making all their campaign posters in there. That seems to be our big meeting room.
What are they campaigning for?
Student council elections.
Oh.
And so they bring their friends and they've been making their posters, and that seems to be our big
a big thing right now.
Yeah.
I'm glad to see that. I know the library was back in the ancient days when I was in high school. The library was a big meeting place. I mean, you had to do your schoolwork anyway, so why stay home if you could go somewhere and do it? So that's fun and good to know that they're doing that. And we, at Main Library, of course, we have so many businesses that are using our meeting rooms for trainings. We have our computer lab. People use that for trainings and preparing for tests. But I know at North Branch they have, the board game group. They have the garden club. They have, I think they have a robotics group or two meeting out there. They have everything you can think of. I think that there's a stamp collecting group. There's, movie clubs. There's the book clubs. Quite a few book clubs that used to meet at Lakeview have gone back there. You've got Bookham and Sci-Fi Fantasy.
Yes.
Yeah. But that's where new ideas come from. People in the community have a place that's a neutral ground to gather and to talk and to have that sense of community and to think up new ideas. And that's one of the things we want to talk about during National Library Week, why libraries are so very, very important. Another thing I think, and I don't know how much of this you see at Lakeview, but English is a second language, folks.
Yes. And I think it varies each location you go, what English.
Which
yes,
language
which language is first
they're
before
transitioning
English.
from.
Yes.
Yeah. What resources do you offer them when they come to Lakeview?
We have another free database, the Mango, which is really good for that. And we have a lot of books. It seems like the books and audiobooks seem to be a real big one that people want. The audiobooks I find more for the people who already speak English and are wanting to learn someone else as a second language. They like those to listen to in their car to pick up a language. But for everyone else, the English as a second language, they like our books, it seems like. And sometimes they'll check out books from our adult collection that'll help them, but then they'll also take from the kids section a picture dictionary to help like see visually too.
Oh, yeah. Well, I know we also, with our Tumble books, is great for that too. And I know that language learners, whether they're learning a second language or whether their English is their second language, with Tumble books, you can look at the animated storybooks and you can listen to those in several other languages. I know there's French and Spanish, and I think there's some Russian too, and I can't remember what else, but that's also a great way. If you're a high school student trying to learn French, you can listen to, listen to a classic story you may know very well and be able to do it and, listen to it on there, and it's always easier. Of course, you can check out DVDs and set your language on your TV.
Yeah.
I don't know if people know that trick either. I always liked Shrek with the way the little we'd listen to it in French when my daughter was studying French, and the little dwarves in Shrek sound really funny in French.
I've never done that.
You should try it. It's pretty entertaining, but it's a great way to learn. Great way to learn. So, but the other thing that I know you do a lot about is early literacy. And what happens when parents bring a very small child into the library and those free story times you guys do so many of? Why is that important, do you think?
I think it's important since it's, the kids can't read yet, but they're still learning the language, and so they get to hear a story and see the pictures or even the songs with the hand motions. It kind of introduces them to the language as well as books. And we have had a lot of families come and say they go around between multiple of our branches for story time, because they might have parents. It seems like a lot of our families that come have parents from 2 different countries, and so it's helping them, they said, to learn their language.
Well, that's interesting too. I hadn't thought of story time as language learning, but that's a good point. I do know that people are surprised that we have story times for lap babies,
yes.
Tiny little ones, but it's just like, they always say you want to read to your baby before they're even born, because they hear the language, they hear mom and dad's voice, and so being out, sometimes I think the baby lap sits are just as good for the new moms too, who are feeling a little trapped, and giving them a chance to have some support and get to know some other moms too. And so that's a lot of fun. But that early literacy is key to our community, isn't it?
Yeah, we've had some kids we've watched already in the year since we've been reopened at Lakeview who've started at the either Little Sprouts story time for newborns or the Tiny Tots, which is a little younger. And you can see as they get older, after story time, they stay longer and longer with their parents picking out books because they don't want to leave.
Oh, they just want to be at the library.
And then some of them will sit in our story time chair then and read to a doll and kind of pretend they're doing story time.
Oh, that's fun. That's fun. Yeah, and so the parents who say, well, I can read to my child at home and I can buy all the books I want, and you think about, you can never, the way avid readers can go through 20, 30 picture books in a weekend.
Oh, yeah.
The library might be a better choice. And getting out and hearing another voice, and of course our librarians are very well trained and very well skilled at introducing children to literature and covering a broad base of things. So I think you're starting some new story times, aren't you? Going to have pajama story times?
We're going to have a pajama story time this month, and you can wear your pajamas, bring your blankie, your favorite stuffed animal, and then in May it's going to switch a little bit to all-age story time, so the whole family can absolutely come and hear the whole stories, which we encourage siblings to come to our other story times too. Just because there's an age doesn't mean someone can't come. It's just geared towards that age, but everyone else can come too. But our summer is going to be packed with all ages story times and another When I Grow Up story time like we did last year, bringing in different people from the community to talk about their jobs and get kids interested in their community and what people do.
Oh, neat. That sounds like a lot of fun. And I know that was popular to give kids not only a chance to attend a story time, but to think about what, jobs they might not have heard of, because I think a lot of times kids hear about stuff on TV that is not very realistic, or they know what their mom and dad do maybe, but there's an awful lot out there they never hear of until, I know as a public relations person, people always say, what is that? What do you do? And they just really don't have a concept of what I do. Maybe you should have me come do one.
We're still looking for people, so.
I'll have them down there doing their own library newsletter and filling out their own calendar of events. And going and trying to get more information from everybody so they can tell the story. Oh, well, we should kind of say too that National Library Week is a national observance, and it was started by the American Library Association, but it goes all the way back to 1958, and so that's an older celebration that's gone on a long time. But basically, we just hope that our library patrons will. This is what I always wish for National Library Week. Tell somebody who's not using the library about the library. Bring them with you. That's the best thing you can do for libraries, to show us that you appreciate us, but also just to help your neighbor and your community become more aware and make better use of resources, as to bring someone in with you. So, well, Katie, thank you so much for coming, and you're doing great work there, and I know you're going to get lots of entries for that poetry contest. So thanks.
No problem.
There's so much going on at Peoria Public Library, and you can go visit Katie at Lakeview Branch, and she'll tell you all about them, or you can look at our website at peoriapubliclibrary.org. Be sure and sign up for our e-newsletter so you can get the calendar delivered to your inbox, or go and click on the calendar anytime. Be sure that you're checking out all of our online resources, particularly BrainFuse and our other databases here, as we're at the end of the school year. A lot of projects and research due, and we have not 50,000 answers, but the one right answer you need. So we'll see you next week on Information Please.